Hi book lovers and welcome to Bookmas Day 5. Today we're going to talk about my favorite book series of 2024. I have 10 book series in total here. When I put this list together, I wanted to focus on the series that I actually read in 2024. So if you think about like a book or a series that is missing on here, it's probably because I haven't read the entire series this year. Or maybe it wasn't as good to be in my top 10. But yeah, some of my favorite books that are in my favorite series are not mentioned in here. For example, the Akater series, because I haven't read the entire series this year. Therefore, it's not going to be one of the best series this year. These book series don't have to be completed yet. And to make this video even more interesting, I thought I would rank all my top 10 book series of the year. And I will start at the bottom and we make our way up to the best book series. And I can already tell you that the first 5 book series I liked and enjoyed, but they're definitely not as good as the top 5. Like the top 5 book series I obsessed with this year. And it wasn't always easy to rank them. However, number 1 and number 2 immediately knew which ones they're gonna be. But let's start at number 10. At number 10, I have the Emily Wilde series here. This is the first and this is the second book, starting with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. And this is a cozy fantasy series. This is not completed yet. I thought it would be only a duology, but there's actually going to be a third book coming out at the beginning of next year. And this series is definitely different from what I usually read, because when I go into fantasy, I usually want more of a romantasy, but this, even though it has a small love story plot line, is definitely not romantasy. And I think that's also why it's a bit more towards the bottom, because especially the first one, I thought that this would be more of a romantasy because people kept talking about the romance in here. But if you want romance, don't read the series. Like, this is perfect for a rainy day. It's such a cozy, atmospherical read. Our main character, Emily, she's a professor at the university and she studies Fae, and she basically has the goal to have an encyclopedia of fairies. And she goes on a trip, I think, to like Norway or something up north. So a very cozy place to study the Fae there. But it turns out to be a bit more difficult, especially because Emily is not really a people's person. She much prefers like her studies and numbers. To her surprise, the rival Wendell also comes to the place to help her, but she's not as happy at the beginning, and that is where you start. And these are definitely, because they are cozy fantasy, much more slow paced, and I think I just kind of had to like get used to that and understand the genre, because I didn't love the first one, but I really enjoyed the second book. And this might also be a case where I think I just read this at the perfect time during fall. It was getting cozy and cold, and I'm very excited to get to the third book next year. At number 9, I put Vancouver Storms by Stephanie Archer. This is an interconnected standalone series with hockey romances. I would say that her books are very solid romances, and if you ever need like a quick palate cleanser, I would definitely direct you towards her, because her books are also like very cute and cuddly and not very heavy, but at the same time I don't think they bring anything particular new to the palette. And I mean, this is not a bad thing, but I don't think that they stand out in particular. And in the Vancouver Storm series, I thought that the first and third book were just okay, to be honest. They weren't really my favorites. However, I loved the second book, The Fake Out. I think that was really well done, and just a very good fake dating romance. If you're looking for one, then I definitely would recommend The Fake Out. And since this is an interconnected standalone, I always love when you see glimpses of the couples that gonna get their own book. And the next book that's gonna come out in the series, I'm highly anticipating because of the little teasers we got for the couple. So very glad to continue with that series. Number 8 is kind of a shock to me, because I totally wrote the author off. The books I read by her in the past I kind of hated, and even the popular ones I really didn't click with. However, I did give this author another chance, and I'm so glad I did. And that is the book series When in Rome by Sarah Adams. These 2 books are out so far, so you have When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect. And the third one is going to come out earlier next year. This all plays in the little small town Rome that is not Rome, Italy, but Rome, Kentucky. And these romances are just very sweet and cute. Sometimes you just want something very lighthearted, and I would say that Practice Makes Perfect for me wasn't even that lighthearted, but I think this one especially, I just really related to the main characters and what they went through, and this just hit different. Like, I can see someone reading this and be like, oh, this was cute and funny, next please. And I like kind of sobbed during this book. I enjoyed this a lot, and this one I enjoyed too, but this I think felt a bit more silly to me than this one. But overall, this is just such a cute and wholesome romance series, and also the small town vibes are inspired by Gilmore Girls, so if you want something similar to that, then I definitely recommend this. And I actually can't wait to get to the next book because, again, like the little teasers we got for the couple, just ate them up. Next up is the Divine Rivals duology with Divine Rivals and Ruth's Vows by Rebecca Ross. And this little duology is just very beautiful. The writing is very lyrical, and even though I really enjoyed this duology, I definitely wasn't obsessed the way a lot of other people were. And I think it was because of the writing that it was so pretty that I just didn't really feel deeply with the characters. It was more of that I just enjoyed how beautiful it was. And also my expectations for the first book were just so high that it was hard to like meet the expectations, if that makes sense. And then for the second one, I actually had really low expectations because a lot of reviews I saw said that they were very disappointed with this one. But I'm actually one of the people that weren't really disappointed, and that could be because I was kind of warned that this might be not as good. And I get where the critique comes from, but to me this was just a very conclusive book to the first one. I don't know, like I just didn't really mind where the author went with the story, and I enjoyed the journey. So in this duology you follow Iris and Roman, and they're both rivals at the newspaper, and in this world there's also a war going on between the gods, and both of them are competing for the same position at the newspaper, but they're also connected to magical typewriters where they can write each other letters, and Iris starts those letters because she wants to write her brother and she thinks that he receives them, but it's actually Roman who receives those letters, so you have a little bit of hidden identity in here as well. We're gonna talk about the last one of the bottom 5 before we go into the top 5, and this one is kind of a shock that it didn't make the top 5, but I just read better series this year, to be honest. And at number 6 we have the Lakefront Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. I read both these books this year. This one already came out last year and this one came out this year, and I love Lauren Asher's writing. Like, she's one of my favorite authors. She always has dual POV. I find her romance is very emotional. You have great spice, you have great found families, you have great friendships in here, billionaires in here. You have a small town in this book series, and I love that all Lauren Asher books are set in the same universe, so you do see little glimpses of couples from the past. And I think why this one isn't in my top 5, even though I really enjoyed these romances, is that compared to her other book series, these ones were just a little bit boring when it comes to the setting. Like, we have her Formula One book series, and then we have her Dreamland Billionaire series, which is basically like Disneyland. And I mean, those settings are just so unique and interesting. But in this one, we just follow billionaires in a small town. And even though this is good, it was just not as unique as her other book series, but nonetheless this is still a very, very good book series, and I still enjoyed these books so much. I think I definitely like the first one a little bit more. However, this one I think is a bit more emotional. Definitely cried at this one. The book length of these are very long, but I'm someone who doesn't really care about that. I want to read everything that Lauren Asher comes out with and that she writes, so I'm kind of glad that I get longer books, but I do understand how people say that these are a bit too long. So yeah, definitely both amazing books, and I really, really loved them, and they just barely not made it on my top 5, but you'll see the top 5 were just very hard to beat this year. Alright, let's talk about my top 5 book series this year. And as I said at the beginning, these are definitely book series I obsessed with and I just absolutely loved. And at number 5 we have the Legacy of God series. If you would have shown me this list at the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have believed how some of the series got on this list, especially a dark romance book series. I mean, yes, I do read dark romance here and there, but it's definitely not like my favorite genre. And also, I always read them just for fun and entertainment, but I never get like a 5-star feeling from a dark romance, because even though they're entertaining, I feel like they just don't always work for me as a romance. Like, the things that happen in those books, they're not like romantic, and therefore I think I just never expect to obsess with one of those books. However, the Legacy of God series turned me, and is also my first to show me that I was wrong. A dark romance book can give me a 5-star feeling. And even though I didn't love all the books in the series, like overall, I just loved how the series gave you the sense of this is, even though it's interconnected standalones, they all work together. And especially the first 5 books out of the 6 books, they all take place at the same time. So you get such a huge picture of what happened and of these friend groups and definitely great found family and what everyone went through, and basically you get the whole timeline out of everyone's perspective, and I love that so much. And God of Fury, one of the best books I've read, and also the only 5-star of this book series. But it's not just 5 stars, like that book is 1,000,000 stars. I love that so much. And I think what also made the series so much fun, that this is a college dark romance series, and I think that Rina Kent just made an amazing job with this book series. And it's also her last book series in the whole Rina universe. And it's the one where I started with, but it definitely made me interested to read other books by her. So yeah, dark romance series made it onto my top 5 series of the year. At number 4, I have the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have all 4 books here. I will say though that I haven't finished Bad Blood yet. I'm right now in the middle of reading this. However, I can already tell you guys that this is one of the best series I've read this year, and I'm so mad at myself that it took me so long to start it, because I wanted to read The Naturals ever since I saw people talk about this. Like, this is Criminal Minds but YA, and you have these 5 kids that are called The Naturals because they have like special talents to either read people, read emotions, detect lies, or are very good with numbers, and they get recruited by the FBI to solve cold cases. This book series is just so incredible, so much fun, so fast-paced, because Jennifer Lynn Barnes always writes very short chapters, and also there's always something happening. And especially book 1 and book 3, the plot twists just got me. These are all 4 stars or above, like this is also a 5-star for me. And while reading the last book, I already think about that I don't want to say goodbye to these characters, and I'm just so sad that it's gonna be over, because these books are just so bingeable. I think they would also be amazing to get you out of a book slump, and I just really love this. And I'm also someone who is not a huge YA fan. However, this book series is just so incredible that I don't really care. Wow, my top 3 book series of 2024, and they are all so incredible. At number 3, I have the Powerless universe, with first Powerless, then we have the novella in between Powerful and Reckless, all by Lauren Roberts. This book series had so much hype, and I definitely went in with high expectations, and it still exceeded. Like, you can also see I tapped the book, and I sometimes go back and read passages, and I'm just immediately reminded how much I love these characters and this book series. You definitely have like a Hunger Games vibe in here, but it also kind of reminded me of the Shatami series, because you have the ordinaries and extraordinaries, and the ordinaries are people who don't have powers and they're believed to be diseased, or kind of make the extraordinaries ill because they don't have power, so they have to be executed. And the executor is Kai, who's the prince to the king. Our main girl, Peyton, is just such a queen. She's such a strong lead, and she is actually an ordinary, but because her dad knew that, he trained her to psychic, and therefore she can kind of fake her way around in this world. However, that gets all very dangerous when she has to take place in the purging trials, and this is going to be a trilogy with the 3rd book coming next year. I can't wait for Fearless. I am so excited, and I also really love the novella. Actually, this follows Adina, the best friend of Peyton, in this book and what she got up to, and I just thought this was really beautiful, especially because I feel like Adina is definitely more of a softer character that you don't see often in fantasy books, and I love that Lauren Roberts gave her own story. And also I think that Lauren Roberts is just a very great writer. I love the banter in here. This is such a great romantasy. It definitely has a lot of tropes. I feel like fantasy readers just eat up, and if you haven't tried the series out yet, 100% recommend. That brings us to my top 2 book series of 2024, and I already kind of teased you that I knew exactly which ones they were going to be, and I will let you know that I may or may not have cheated just a little bit, but I thought this is my favorite book series ranking and my rules, so I'm allowed to do that. These book series are just everything to me. I want people to link them to me immediately, so I just had to make them my number 2 and my number 1, even though it's not exactly by the rules that I told you at the beginning. And the first one I have here is the Daisy Hates series. I have the second Daisy Hates book here because the first one I actually lent to a friend, so I don't have it with me, but I read both of them this year. However, why I say that I cheated a little bit is that I would say this is part of the Magnolia Parks universe, and for me, you can't really separate them, and I definitely read them all together, but because I haven't read the Magnolia Parks book this year but last year, I couldn't really include that. But I thought since you could technically read the Daisy Hates books without the Magnolia Parks books, I will just do that because I read Daisy Hates and Daisy Hates the Great Undoing both in 2024, and I love this universe so much. I love Jester Hastings' writing so much. It's definitely one of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. Like, the quotes in here are just so incredible, and these are very character-driven books, and the characters are very, very flawed. And I know there are also people who don't like that and therefore don't like the book series. I'm not one of those people. I obsessed with these books so much. I love them so much, and it really hurts me when people don't like these books because I'm like, they're my babies, how can you not like them? I am a Parks girly, so I do love the Magnolia Parks books a little bit more than the Daisy Hates ones. I think that's also why this is at number 2 and not number 1. However, I still love Daisy and Julian and Christian so much, and also they just have the most beautiful covers ever, and I just really love everything about these books. I could reread them and just find more beautiful things to say about the book series. I find it so difficult to even describe what these books are or what they are about because plot-wise, there's really not much happening. Like, these are just very character-driven stories. The best way to always describe them is kind of like Gossip Girl, but in London. However, in the Daisy Hates books, you also have like a mafia-like aspect. I just love this book series so much, and this was only surpassed by one other book series. My favorite book series of 2024 is just so incredible, so amazing. One of the best romances I've ever read, and that is The Part of Your World universe by Abby Jimenez. And you can see I'm only holding up Yours Truly and Just for the Summer, and that is because I read Part of Your World actually last year, and that was one of my favorite books last year. And I know that I said I would only rank series where I read all the books this year. However, like, I can't. This book series is just so incredible, so good. Like, this is my number 1 that I just don't care that I didn't read the first one this year. It's my video, it's my rules, and I can change them, and that just tells you how much I love this book series. I think why I also just had to mention them is that these are interconnected standalones, so you follow different couples with each book. However, this is actually one of those interconnected series where I would say you have to read them from the very first one. And that's not just because they're all incredible and the first one is worth it the same as the second and the third, but there's like an overall story arc that you just, like, it just hits so different when you read especially the third book, when you read them all in order. And I love these books so much. I don't know what Abby Jimenez put in here, but the way these people fall in love and also the way they describe each other, what they feel for them, how they would show their love, like, it's just so good. And I want to reread these books so bad. I can't even tell you which one is my favorite, to be honest. Like, some days it's Yours Truly, some days it's Part of Your World. I would say this is probably my least favorite. However, this was still so incredibly good. Like, I don't even want to say that this is my least favorite because I feel like this just doesn't deserve a title like this. Like, these books were just so amazing. I cried at all 3 books. I laughed at all 3 books. Like, this is definitely also rom-com, but it's so emotional. It is just, oh my god. Read these books, please. Abby Jimenez quickly became one of my favorite authors with this book series, and her book release next year, 5-star prediction. I can't wait. I want to read more by her, and I'm so glad that I actually have her other book series still to read, and that's one of my 2025 goals, to read her backlist, because I just need to read everything by her. Like, once I love an author, give me everything they've ever written. This just deserves to be number 1. It's as easy as that, and I'm not apologizing for that. I just love these so much. And that concludes all my top 10 book series I've read in 2024. I'm feeling so good right now talking about my favorite book series. Definitely let me know in the comments what are your favorite book series, and give this video a like and also subscribe for more bookish content. And I'll see you guys not tomorrow but the day after for Bookmas day number 6. Bye!